In the previous unit, students began working with linear equations and their graphs. In this unit, they extend those ideas and skills to solve systems of linear equations, linear inequalities, and systems of linear inequalities. Prior to engaging in Unit 2, students will need to be able to write and solve linear equations, as well as determine if an ordered pair is a solution. They will also need to be able to graph linear equations and identify key features of those graphs, such as intercepts and zeros. Students will need to know how to work with the slope-intercept form of a linear equation. Unit 1 is a prerequisite to Unit 2. Students wrote equations and inequalities that represented certain conditions and constraints with increasing levels of complexity starting in 6th grade. By 8th grade, they write equations and inequalities with rational numbers and variables on both sides. This is the basis for writing systems of equations and inequalities in Algebra 1. In 6th and 7th grade, students represented solutions for the 1- and 2-step equations and inequalities they wrote. These foundational skills also set students up for being able to graph the solution set for a system of inequalities, as well as for systems of equations. The expectation that students graph the solution sets for systems of inequalities aligns with Algebra 1 3D. Students built on the equations they began solving in 5th grade by learning to solve 1-step inequalities in 6th grade and 2-step inequalities in 7th grade. They modeled real-world contexts and solved more difficult inequalities with variables on both sides using rational numbers. Students are now building on this understanding and expanding it in Algebra 1 to include solving equations that involve the distributive property. These skills give the foundation for solving complex systems of linear equations and inequalities in Algebra 1, which require the use of all of these at one time. In 6th grade, students determined if a given value made an equation or an inequality true for a 1-step equation. That expanded to 2-step equations and inequalities in 7th grade. In 8th grade, a graphical component is added to the student expectations. At this level, students were required to read the solution from a coordinate plane and then check that coordinate pairs satisfied 2 linear equations at the point of intersection. Notice the Grade 8 Mathematics TEKS stipulates students are given the equations in slope-intercept when verifying the solutions. In Algebra 1, students are expected to be able to rewrite equations in slope-intercept form on their own. These TEKS built an understanding of what constitutes solutions of equations and inequalities to prepare students to graph solutions of the systems presented in Algebra 1. As you move through this unit and find students who have gaps in their understanding of the prerequisite skills, consider using these resources available in the OpenStax Pre-Algebra book.